everyone! I wasn't sure that I was going to get a video made this week because I'm quite short on time, but then I remembered that I had wanted to start making more tarot videos again, and I thought what better thing to do in a short space of time than to do maybe a mini tarot reading, one of my readings where I draw two cards at random and talk about the two cards kind of in tandem with each other and how they kind of influence each other, how you might read them together, and what kind of advice they posit as a pair rather than the cards individually. And I might take this time as well to do one or two 2-minute tarot videos as well if I have the time after this. So today I'm using the Shadowscapes deck to do this mini tarot reading. I had a bit of a hiatus with Shadowscapes for maybe a few months. I was getting to know the Wild Unknown and I was reading the Rider-Waite a lot, especially for clients. But then I kind of realised that I had gotten to a point where I had this slightly negative idea about Shadowscapes, that I was thinking of it as being very kind of love and light and maybe a little bit fluffy. Because some of its cards are a little bit like the cards that in the Rider-Waite are maybe more overtly negative looking. In the Shadowscapes they're often a little bit more neutral, I suppose you could say. And I kind of had this in my head that maybe it was a slightly imbalanced deck. But then when I started using it again for myself, because I kind of missed it, it is the deck that I learned tarot with. And when I started using it again for myself, I remembered just the wealth of symbolism in this deck is actually wonderful. And rather than the kind of neutrality of the more negative cards lending it a kind of biased feel or making it more kind of overtly positive, it actually, I think, helps to make the cards more universally applicable oftentimes. And as a result, while this is quite a Rider-Waite oriented deck, some of the cards really do have a very different kind of message or meaning for me, I think, from the Rider-Waite. Now the reason I'm saying all of this here is because one of the cards I drew today is the Five of Swords, and it's a perfect example of one of these cards in Shadowscapes, which is actually quite different from the Rider-Waite image. And like I say, while the Rider-Waite image is pretty negative, this image is it's fairly neutral. So rather than having an image of a very obvious aftermath of a conflict and seeing people who have obviously been hurt and somebody who maybe is sort of bragging or reaping in the rewards, or who's maybe taken things a bit too far and pushed things, maybe gone over a line or something. Here instead we have an individual character who is kind of flying through the air with two they're black swans, I think. Or are they geese? I'm not sure. Maybe black geese. Yeah, geese, I think. And there is definitely that feeling, you get that same feeling associated with the fives of sort of conflict and clashing, and especially with the element of air, of that sort of brash kind of, maybe a conflict in communications, or some harsh words said or something like that. But there is the flip side of it where it kind of pertains maybe more broadly to maybe the need to push out the boat a bit, the need to break through, to break out. And like I say, it is pretty neutral. In tandem with the Knight of Pentacles, I feel that these two cards together are kind of they tap into two very different approaches, or possible kind of ways that you can move forward, or ways that you can get yourself out of a rut, or respond to a situation that you're currently in. The Five of Swords in Shadowscapes really reminds me of the Knight of Swords. Those two cards have a lot in common. So in a way I feel that these two cards have a very similar kind of vibe to them, except that, of course, in other ways they're almost opposite, because the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles have this sort of opposite feeling of, whereas the Knight of Swords, or as we have here, the Five of Swords, has a very impetuous kind of brash kind of feel to it, where it's kind of urging you to move forward, take a leap, not overthink things, just take a stand. Whereas the Knight of Pentacles is very sort of almost plodding, if you're looking at it in a negative sense, but taking your time, putting down the kind of the groundwork, and just making sure that you follow things step by step, that you are patient, that you do the work, and that you move forward in that way. So I think that these two cards together, the Five of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles, they kind of suggest that you should have a look at how you're responding to any sort of situation in your life at the moment that pertains to change or movement, or even just in how you're dealing with other people in your life, your interpersonal relationships, and have a look at how much you are, the ways in which you are positively kind of, you know, rushing forward and taking the initiative and, you know, speaking your truth, and the positive ways in which you might be sort of being careful and steady and going kind of taking things at their own speed and not pushing forward, not barreling forward, but just sort of taking things as they come. But then also have a look at how maybe you need to tap into the energy of the opposite kind of way of approaching this. So have a look at maybe how there might be negative aspects to the way in which you're barreling forward, and how there might be negative ways in which you are being sort of held back by an inability to take initiative, or an inability to sort of see a different way, see outside the box, and not just get very stuck in routine and in the same path that you've been sort of walking along for a long time. So yeah, I think these two cards are a wonderful example of how the elements of air and earth really need to be balanced in your life, especially when it comes to movement and change and your interactions with other people. There absolutely has to be an element to which you are really expressing yourself honestly and openly, and you have to be open to change and movement and flow. But at the same time then you have to be willing to take things at their own pace, willing to accept that work needs to be done to get from A to B, and willing to accept that sometimes you need to sort of stand your ground in a quiet way, maybe in a patient way, and accept what other people have to say, rather than just, you know, foisting your view on them or foisting your opinion on them without being willing to sort of be quiet and calm and receive what they have to offer, or what they have to say.